I wanted to do a reaction to a fucking bullshit video that, oh my god, you just gotta hear this. WhatCulture's 8 Disney Star Wars changes that were completely justified. This is gonna be a fun ride.
Of all the beloved childhood properties to have changed since the turn of the century, the most emotionally contested has to be Star Wars. Whether it's changes to the original trilogy, a divisive story, or, the subject of this video, alterations to the expanded universe, the galaxy far, far away has often been at the epicenter of online debate.
That's true.
Always tend to run high when it comes to the EU, which was expunged from the official Star Wars continuity in 2014, at which point it was then relegated to the Legends bracket. It was an essential move by...
An essential move? No, it wasn't. It was not an essential move. They didn't need to do it. It was utter bullshit. Creative freedom! Only to fucking rip off everything in the EU? Fucking shills.
Disney, and though there have been some unfortunate casualties, the Old Republic and Kyle Katarn will forever be in my heart. It's fair to say that the new EU is tighter, more compelling, and altogether just better than the old mythology. But
better, tighter? Oh my gosh. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, you're so wrong. The new canon is an absolute fucking mess. And it's so mediocre. Oh my god. If you want proof that I'm not just talking out my ass, I'm gonna leave a podcast. Yeah, a link to a podcast to basically prove my point about the new canon. So anyway, let's continue.
It's what changes, instigated since the old continuity vanished, have worked the best. With cloned emperors, weird Sith apprentices, and dozens of awkward depictions to go by, I'm Ewan from What Culture.
What about all the awkward stuff in the new canon? And how is Visas Mara a weird Sith apprentice? There's nothing weird about her.
And here are 8 Star Wars changes made by Disney that were completely justified. Number 8, the formation of the Rebel Alliance.
Oh, let me guess, they're gonna fucking bash Starkiller. Oh.
For decades, the formation of the Rebel Alliance was a relatively unexplored thing in the expanded universe. Of course, stories were told that recounted their earliest battles against the Empire, but nothing delved deep into the burgeoning moments of its existence. That was until The Force Unleashed released in 2008. The game was certainly enjoyable, and the overall story was cinematic and exciting, but it didn't seem to gel with the canon as it...
Why didn't it gel with the canon? What the fuck?
Then existed. Its original premise: in a bid to overthrow the Emperor, Darth Vader begins training a secret apprentice, Galen Marek, who was the son of a Jedi the Sith Lord had previously killed. In order to overthrow his master, Vader instructs his apprentice to raise an alliance to fight against the Empire. Unfortunately for him, it transpires that Vader had been doing his master's bidding all along, and that this plot was to merely get all the rebel conspirators in one room so they could be eliminated.
And that's actually a good story.
In one fell swoop. Marek eventually gives his life so that the Rebel Alliance can live, but it was the kind of story that was almost too important. It made no sense that these events weren't addressed in the original trilogy.
Do we have to address every single fucking thing that happens? Like, do we have to really address how the Rebel Alliance was formed? You don't have to mention every single fucking thing. That's why the EU exists.
But when Disney took another shot at the story with Star Wars Rebels, they didn't make the same mistake. The reasons for the Alliance's creation were more fitting, and with the exception of Ezra, most of the characters involved were more interesting too.
Okay, I will have to admit, I do like Kanan. I mean, he's not as cool as Galen Marek or Ram Koda or hell, even Kyle Katarn, but Rebels was a decent series, but And there's some things about the formation of the rebellion that does make sense in Rebels, like setting it a few years before, but I overall like The Force Unleashed better, so sorry.
Number 7. Obi-Wan's encounters with Darth Maul. Darth Maul ended up being one of the few bright sparks from the Star Wars prequels.
He was one of the many bright spots in the Star Wars prequels.
But for many years, his appearance in The Phantom Menace tends to be considered something of a waste. Here was clearly a brilliant adversary, and yet he was killed off then and there. Not so in the expanded canon, although...
Oh my gosh, you fucking idiots! This story...
Though this technically qualifies as a Legend of Legends, the EU story Old Wounds did illustrate a showdown between Maul and Obi-Wan.
Okay, I'm glad you acknowledged that this story was not part of the EU, thank you. I thought you were gonna be
Kenobi on Tatooine, many years after the Jedi Purge. This would be the first and only occasion where the two would meet outside of The Phantom Menace, but come 2008's Clone Wars TV show, a drastic change was made. Now it was revealed that Maul had survived the encounter with Obi-Wan on Naboo, and that he'd had a brother called Savage Opress. Savage Opress, really, not really gonna get any more inventive with that name, okay. Anyway.
Okay, yeah, that is something that's kind of funny.
The two united over their hatred of Kenobi, and a great rivalry ensued. Said rivalry was carried over.
To be honest, I think that Darth Maul should have stayed dead. But that's just my opinion.
Over to Star Wars Rebels, where Maul once again tracks Kenobi down to Tatooine. They duel, briefly, but their ending is outstanding and illustrative of one of the few genuinely must-see elements of the new expanded canon. Number 6. Boba Fett is neither alive nor dead. Now, I don't want to dunk on Boba Fett. Everyone loves Boba Fett, but the...
Boba Fett really didn't do that much in the original trilogy. I think Jango Fett is more badass. At least going from the movies, at least.
Bounty Hunter only appears across the original trilogy for a grand spanking 6 minutes and 32 seconds, and though he did indeed boast a menacing look, it is a little bizarre that the character has been eulogized so much by the Star Wars faithful.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
It was perhaps that very popularity that resurrected the character in the original expanded universe.
Well, what's wrong with his character being resurrected?
It was revealed that the son of Jango became the first living creature to escape the belly of the Sarlacc, and that he then resumed his career as a bounty hunter before returning to Mandalore and leading the warrior planet against the Yuuzhan Vong. It's better if you don't ask, in his later years. As of 2018, however, Fett's fate is still unknown. Presumably, he is still wasting away in the Sarlacc, but the official line from Lucasfilm Story Group is that, quote, Boba Fett is both simultaneously alive and dead in the Sarlacc. Number 5, Chewie's death gets stricken from the record.
Oh my god, Chewie's... Oh, let's hear them bitch about Chewbacca's death. Oh.
Good. The death of Chewbacca was something of an infamous event in the old EU canon, and it's because of one simple reason. He gets crushed by a moon. A literal moon. Great. So, how does the event come about? Well, the book revolves around the machinations of the Yuuzhan Vong, again, and eventually it sees Han, his son Anakin, and Chewie travel to a planet called Cern Padal to pick up some cargo. It transpires that the Vong have marked the planet for death, and they plan to destroy it by bringing its orbiting moon crashing down to the surface below. Chewie is left behind, while the Solos and Skywalkers are left to grieve for their beloved comrade. No one should be averse to silliness when it comes to Star Wars. Some would even say it's the bread and butter of the franchise.
The planet the moon collided with the planet. So many people like to say, oh, a moon fell on his head, that's dumb, oh. They try to slander to make it sound a lot... They like to make it sound stupid, but... He died a fucking hero. Unlike frickin' Han and Luke.
But Chewie's death in Vector Prime was still controversial even at the time of the book's release. It was just so over the top, and a poor end for one of the most beloved characters.
And Luke's death wasn't over the top. Dying of being exhausted.
In the original trilogy. Number 4, Darth Vader's discovery of Luke Skywalker. One of the best things about seeing the new expanded universe develop has been the way in which it's tackled the prequels. In many ways, they've actually managed to elevate those stories, and one of the best examples.
They managed to elevate those stories like the prequels? No. Read frickin' Star Wars Republic, dude. Those things did a much better job of elevating the prequels. I can guarantee you that.
Of that comes in Star Wars Darth Vader number 6. Written by Kieran Gillen and with art from Salvador Larroca, Darth Vader quickly became one of the most compelling Star Wars books on shelves, focusing on the Emperor's apprentice in the aftermath of the Death Star's destruction between episodes 4 and 5. The 6th issue includes a moment where the Emperor's right-hand man finds out the name of the pilot who destroyed the Death Star, courtesy of the aforementioned Boba Fett, Skywalker. The ensuing panels illustrate just how affected Vader is by the revelation, with flashbacks to Revenge of the Sith, specifically the moment where Padme told Anakin that she was pregnant, and later the scene where Palpatine lied and said that Vader had killed his wife, further enforcing the gravity of the moment. It's a subtle change that completely alters the way Vader conducts himself in The Empire Strikes Back, and a great way of foreshadowing the tension between him and his master. Plus, the series itself, as well as its spin-off, Dr. Aphra, are pretty much perfect and well worth reading if you're looking for an example of how the prequels can work in Disney Star Wars. Just saying. Number 3, getting rid of...
Oh my god, they're gonna bitch about Dark Empire.
Clone Palpatine. For many, this is where the old EU canon just falls apart. Although Return of the Jedi concluded the Emperor's story by having Darth Vader throw him into the depths of the second Death Star without saying a single word, why would he say no? That would be stupid. God, the folks over at Dark Horse Comics decided that it would be a great idea to resurrect the character in
It was George Lucas's order that Palpatine be resurrected. George Lucas himself told them to do this. It's a fact. You can look up the interview.
1991. The storyline? Dark Empire, a comic book which detailed the efforts of the New Republic to suppress a resurgent Imperial rebellion, and more specifically, their attempts to resurrect their former leader. Throughout the course of the series, the Emperor is cloned in several different bodies.
No. What happened was, as soon as Palpatine died, in Return of the Jedi, he put his Force spirit within one of the clone bodies. They're mindless clones.
Then literally turns to the dark side and pledges his allegiance to the resurrected Palpatine.
And he only does that to get close to Palpatine and kill him. And he's pretending to be on the dark side. Seriously. And if you actually fucking read the story, people, if Luke tried to kill him then and there, Palpatine would have possessed Luke's body, and then he wouldn't have needed the clone bodies anymore. Jeez, actually fucking read Dark Empire, you dumbass.
If people think the new trilogy repetitively lifts elements from episodes 4 till 6, then they should really read Dark Empire. It renders episode 6's conclusion completely obsolete.
No, it doesn't, you fucking stupid retard. How does it? Palpatine still gets defeated in the end. He still gets defeated, and Luke goes on to rebuild the Jedi Order in the EU, so in the end, nothing's ruined, you asshole. If anything, the sequel trilogy makes the ending of Return of the Jedi pointless. I'm sorry.
Makes Luke Skywalker look like an impressionable fool, and it's
No, it doesn't. You have not even fucking read Dark Empire, you retard.
Full with old EU cliches, with the onus very much on making everything epic to an absurd degree. Number 2, who stole the Death Star plans?
Oh, what are they gonna bitch about right here?
Although Kyle Katarn's absence is the one most felt by Star Wars fans in this new canon, it's difficult to argue that him stealing the plans for the Death Star was a better story than the one seen in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Katarn was a great character, and one who could definitely be brought into the new continuity should...
And they would fuck him up. It it wouldn't be the original Katarn. I'm sorry.
Disney be looking for a charming rogue in the mold of Han Solo, but the story of him defecting from the Empire to transmit the Death Star plans was nowhere near as emotional, devastating, or as transformative as the one feature.
What? No, Dark Empire was better, because, I mean, I'm sorry, I think the characters in Rogue One were kind of one-dimensional compared to Jan and Kyle Katarn.
In Gareth Edwards' film. In the original tale, there's no explanation for the structural vulnerability in the weapon's exhaust port, no lovable cast of outsiders, and no menacing Darth Vader cameo. Yes, we're comparing a video game from 1995 to a blockbuster from 2016, but it's still fair to say that Rogue One told a far more satisfying story of how the Rebels gained the Death Star plans than the
I don't agree with that.
one told 2 decades prior. Number 1, everything that happened to Luke after
Oh my god, this is gonna be so retarded.
Episode 6. Hey, I know what you're thinking. This guy is going to talk about The Last Jedi, and the comments section will inevitably be a nightmare. And you know what? You're right, I am going there. But please, oh please, take a chill pill and several deep breaths before you go off on one. Before Rian Johnson's film, it's fair to say that Luke Skywalker was fairly one-dimensional.
One-dimensional? What? How is he one-dimensional?
Yes, he was the heir to the greatest pilot the galaxy had ever known, but he was never destined to be anything other than a typical hero. A young farm boy who gets swept up in a rebellion, rescues a princess, and saves the day. To be fair, he didn't need to be anything else, but The Last Jedi goes to great lengths to extract just how the legacy of the Skywalkers would impact Luke, and what the way of the Jedi, or rather Luke's own way, should actually be. In the end, Luke dies on his own terms, at peace, and with the knowledge of having saved the lives of his friends.
He dies a coward.
He does this not by needlessly twirling his lightsaber around, or by lifting an AT-AT onto a horde of stormtroopers, but by depriving Kylo of the thing he wants the most, Luke's death by his hand, and with it the knowledge that the most vapid, superficial, and violent aspects of the Force are its true defining traits. Ironically, the old EU paints a picture of Luke that plays into the things Kylo adores the most. Luke dons his father's old armor for a period of time and becomes so powerful that he eventually becomes untouchable.
Not really. He did struggle against Abeloth, I've heard. It took several people just to fight Abeloth in Fate of the Jedi.
In his eventual turn to the dark side and a fundamental lack of character development, and it becomes clear that the Luke of the old canon was, in truth, really quite boring.
What? Lack of character development? Have you even fucking read any of the expanded universe? Have you read... You clearly haven't read any of the EU. His struggle is to rebuild the Jedi Order. His struggle in Dark Empire. His struggle in Jedi Academy Trilogy. His struggle with his wife's death. You fucking have not read the EU, you piece of crap.
He founds a temple, trains a new generation of Jedi, and dares not to question its traditions. He
did question its traditions, dumbass. If you even fucking read the post-Return of the Jedi stuff, Luke Skywalker reformed the Jedi. Many of the old things that the old Jedi Order did, he completely changed. Like, he allowed his Jedi to fall in love. He trained anyone who was Force sensitive, of any age. So, you're talking out your ass, you...
then turns to the dark side himself before turning back once again, and soon becomes the most powerful Force user in the galaxy. But isn't this, not Luke's depiction in Episode 8, what really betrays the character?
No. Jake Alien Milker does betray the character of the real Luke. I'm sorry.
In truth, the Luke seen in the old expanded universe became a mythic figure, the kind spoken of before Rey meets him, but it's not the Skywalker seen in the original trilogy. That man was a flawed character, and the one presented in the old EU, save for an uninspired turn to the dark side, couldn't be further from that depiction.
He was a flawed character, asshole. You clearly have not read any of the fucking EU. You're talking out your ass. Oh my god, what a piece of crap video. Wow, people. What do you think of this shitty video? Let me know, and have a good day or good evening. I'm sorry, this video pisses me off. Alright, have a good day.